I'm back.
Every time I walk out that door, every time I interact with anybody new, my purpose is to help change.
It's time to celebrate life. If you know that you're in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know you want better for your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you have what it takes to be in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you are not just trying to be good for you, but for those around you, it's time to stand up. As a matter of fact, look to the person to your left and tell them you are enough.
I want to help you change, and just like you change, every time I interact with somebody, they help me change. It's no different than if I met an individual and they had 4 quarters and they needed change, or if I had $1 and they had 4 quarters, I need to change. We can swap the money. The value is still the same. They still got $1, I still got $1, but we both exchange something, and it was a change for both of us. So every time I walk out that door, I inspire to help change lives just as much as lives have changed me.
Y'all been listening to the wrong people, watching the wrong things all your life, and it's time to put to rest all those negative thoughts, because you are enough. It's time to put to rest that self-doubt, because you are enough. It is time to get rid of that negative energy, because you are enough. It is time to stop listening to people that don't have the best interests of you and your life, because you are enough. So let's have a moment of silence. I want everybody to understand that you are the person that's in charge of your life. Everything that you have inside of you to be who you're supposed to be in life. You have a destiny, and that destiny can only be accomplished through you, by you, and only you, with the help of God. When you realize that you are the person you are, because you're not a carbon copy, there's only one you. They try to put you in the box. Society tries to put you in the box, but you can't be in the box. How can you be in a box when there's only one you? But then they tell you, think outside the box. What I'm trying to get you to understand is there is no box.
I want to pass on the things that I have to the generations behind me. By the time it's time for me to get called home and go to the grave, I want to be empty. I believe in bankrupting the cemetery, so I can't take this knowledge with me, because the cemetery is already full of brilliant ideas and unwritten books and innovative ideas. I can't take this with me, so I'm trying to leave it all here as Billy Graham Jr. to the next generation so somebody else can carry it on.
And we are back, and I want to welcome everybody and thank you all for tuning in, because, man, when I say we're about to have us a good time tonight, I mean it might get a little controversial. Some topics might touch you the wrong way, and some topics gonna make you think. But I had to bring this individual because she's gonna bring nothing but the fire and put it on your mind. She's gonna make you think and take a bigger look inside of yourself to say, maybe I'm the problem? Or is there something I can do to help solve the problem, remedy the problem? Because when I say she is dynamic and she is powerful, and she doesn't just speak her mind and from her heart, she uses her words and tries to spread love to every single body and help you grow better as a person. I'm talking about, she is a 7-time author. She just recently written a new book, and I'm not going to get into all the details. I'm going to let you meet her yourself, because when I say you need to hear from her, you can't hear from nobody else. So I have to bring you the one, the only, the amazing Miss Candy Jones.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Hi.
How you doing?
I am blessed. How are you?
The same, blessed and highly favored over here.
Amen. Amen.
Now, I know we finna get into some thoughts, the topics tonight, but before we even do that, can you tell everybody who is Candy Jones?
Candy Jones is a mother, a veteran, a minister, a woman who loves God, loves food, loves to cook food, loves reading, I love writing. I love spending time with my kids. I love my church and my church family. Family is everything, and that's every form of family.
Man, I love how we starting already, because most people get it construed and they just say, "Oh, I love God," and then they just stop right there. And it's like, well, what part of how God works in your life? And then you went straight into family, and then you hit me real hard when you said food, because I love food. So let's start with going through this journey. How did we get from the Candy of young to the Candy? You're still young, but the Candy of now.
The Candy of young is a pastor's daughter. Grew up in church. That's all I know. All I know is Jesus. That's it. Some things happened when I was younger, and because of it, I left God. I left his presence. And it was a family member situation that caused me to leave the presence of God. And that's how I turned to my first marriage, and seeking comfort in someone who couldn't give it to me.
Okay.
Seeking somebody who couldn't do that for me, and looking to I guess fulfillment. And I got the opposite. I got a narcissist.
Okay, wow.
I got abuse. I got hurt. I got pain. I got even worse than what I had walked away from. I ran away from home at 17.
Wow.
Straight into the arms of this man. You know, so I ran into a narcissist, somebody who was controlling, who was a cheater, who was, again, abusive, who talked down to me, talked about me. I ended up in jail. I ended up in so much more drama than what I needed to be in. Left, finally, went into the Navy. Loved Navy life. But being in Navy life, I had to leave behind my son. So that was hard. Turn around, finally get to a place where I can get him back and walk into yet another marriage that was hurt and pain and drama. I lost a child in that process. It took 14 years to recover from that, and 14 years to walk away from that marriage. But I stand before you today delivered. I stand before you not crying over people who didn't cry for me. I stand here speaking into myself because others wouldn't speak into me. I'm standing here now being who God had spoken that I was supposed to be before I was even born. Words that were spoken to my parents before I made an appearance. That I'm finally living that life that I was already supposed to live. But I had to go through some things to get here. So it took several books to get here. It took several, God, I don't get it. It took being homeless twice to get here. Again, it took 2 marriages to get, but I'm here.
So I have a question. I want to dive into this because it a lot of this is what you learned, brought you, and got you to where you are now. But you started off where you told us where you came from, background, church, and everything, and then you said you left because you were looking for something and you didn't find it in the right people. So if you're thinking back now, and there's that young lady out there right now, young man, whoever it may be, that thinks they're running from something to go find something, what would you necessarily tell them? Because we hear all the time, like, nobody can make you happy. You have to find your own happiness. Nobody can do this or that. Whatever you're missing, you have to do that for yourself. Don't look for others to do it. Because as you said, you were looking for somebody that you were doing all this crime, but nobody was crying for you. So when you look back, what would that starting point of that message be for somebody that you said you came from the loving family, church background, everything was God, but you left that in search of something? What would you tell that person that's in that same situation right now, whether it be younger, older, middle age, however you want to put it?
First, stop looking for happiness, because there's no such thing.
You don't think so?
Happiness is temporary. To have happiness, you have to keep doing something to get it.
Can you elaborate on that? Can you elaborate on that?
Okay. Take an addict.
Mm-hmm.
They constantly want that high.
Okay.
So they'll do whatever they have to do to get it.
Okay.
They'll sell themselves. They'll steal. They'll lie. They'll do whatever it takes to get to it. But they're never satisfied. Happiness does not equal satisfaction. But joy is constant. Joy says, I don't care what state I'm in. Paul said, it doesn't matter what state I'm in, I still have joy.
Okay.
That's something that's everlasting. That's if I have money, I still have joy because I have peace.
What if you don't?
You'll have peace.
Even if you don't have the thing that you might bring that joy?
But you would if you have joy in the right things.
I guess what I'm saying is I think it depends on the person. I think it's just a word play. It depends on the word a person wants to use, maybe.
Two different definitions. I'm an English head. English is my favorite language.
Oh, no.
So they mean two different things.
So what's the definition of happiness?
The definition of happiness is to have something, again, that makes you in that moment pleased.
Okay.
You're temporarily pleased.
Okay.
That's like a kid with a toy. I have kids. I have 3 sons.
Okay.
I can make them happy.
In the moment.
I can buy them a toy and they're temporarily pleased. But what happens when they get bored? They're not pleased anymore.
Okay.
But I can put on a, say, long-running TV show that they like. Like they like Star Wars. You know, Star Wars goes forever and
you're gonna be watching Star Wars for 6 years.
See, you can watch Star Wars for forever and you'll never get bored. And then you have to go back and watch some episodes again because you might miss something out of it, right? Yep. That's joy. Because with joy, I can go back to it and I will get the same pleasure. Oh, but it'll last. It stays. With happiness, I get pleasure at that moment. But I have to keep going back over and over and over to get that same feeling. That's like people with money. A lot of people with money are not happy.
Nope.
They don't even have joy. They're happy because they get what they want. But they don't have love. They don't sleep good at night. They don't have peace. They don't have people around them that really care. They have people around them that want what they have. They never really have joy because joy brings kindness and temperance and love. Happiness ain't in the Bible. But joy is.
So, okay, then let's rephrase that then. So somebody that's out there in search of something within inside of themselves, if it's not happiness, because we hear people all the time talk about happiness.
Yeah.
So say you found somebody, because I've heard people also say that when they found their happiness, they're living a better life. Don't know what that they don't go into detail.
Yeah. And that's the thing. They don't ever go into detail about it. What does that really even mean when you find happiness? I have joy in being a mom because it's constant. That I'm always going to be a mom. I'm always going to have my babies. I have purpose in that. And happiness is hard to find purpose because you're always looking for your purpose. In joy, you found your purpose. You found, like for you, I've watched a number of your shows. You have joy in doing this. This is something you really love to do. You have your purpose. But I've seen people who do things like this and it falls off because they're only happy doing it temporarily.
Okay.
It's not to do it to the point of where they really help people. They just do it because it's notoriety and it looks good and it's the fad for the moment.
Exactly. Yep, I've seen that. That's basically all the social media. You have a
joy about doing it. You enjoy talking to people. You enjoy helping others. You enjoy, what your stories bring. And the people that you bring on bring.
Because I think what it is for me is it's allowing others to see into the lives of others. Mm-hmm. So that way people don't understand that you're not alone. Like because you tapped in a little bit about it when you were speaking, like it kind of goes like how social media is. We scroll, we see, but we're just tapping into brief moments of a person's life, but it doesn't tell the overall picture.
Whole
like we hear, do affirmations for this and let's talk about relationship this. Like we see it on a regular basis. But then you see the ones where people are actually trying to share the right information.
Yes.
And they get no love. It's like no likes, no shares. Nobody's trying to spread that message. So I'm big on long as you touch one person, that's all that matters.
That's where I am with Candy's Thoughts with my website. I want to reach out to people. I have gone through mental health issues, especially as a veteran. As a veteran, as a battered woman, as somebody who's dealt with narcissism, as somebody who was almost raped at one point, as someone who's dealt with child loss. I want to be there for other people going through those things because some of those people are not ready to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist, or a life coach, or talk to a pastor. They're not at that point yet. But I'm about showing that love and saying, I relate. Here's the reality of this. It's dirty, it's ugly, it's grimy, but it's real. This is the reality of when you lose a child, you lose a piece of yourself. This is the reality of a woman or a man who's been abused. They don't feel like they matter anymore. Here's the reality of a veteran. This person who you thank every day for fighting for your country, they appreciate your thanks, but what they really want you to do is help them.
Yeah.
They really want a hug. They really want you to say, I care about you. What can I do to help you? They want you to say, I will go to bat for you against the government and tell the government, hey, these people need health care.
Yeah.
These women who lose a child and these men, I actually had fathers reach out to me about losing a child and say, we feel seen now. In a place that we didn't. They always talk about a mother losing a child, but understand that father feels it too. They need just as much mental health care as the mother does.
Yeah. Yep.
because they expect the father to help the mother get through it. Well, that was his seed also. He suffered just like she did. These are the people that are so over suicide levels for our veterans and our battered women and our women who lose a child, even our men who lose a child. The suicide rates for being raped or almost raped, those levels are so high. But who's really reaching out to them? Who's really reaching out to our divorced people? I see how divorced women get treated versus divorced men.
What's the difference? What do you see the difference as?
It's like for the man, oh, you had a reason to walk away. But for a woman, it's like, well, what'd you walk away for? Oh, he cheated, girl. You better. God said to forgive him and let it go. You didn't say that to that man. His wife cheated on him.
I asked that question because I always hear and this ain't even just divorce. This is just any time.
Yeah.
The question gets asked to the man, what did you do? And I say that because like when you brought up, it's two things you said, and because I'm one of those, me and you are the same. Like, I don't know if it's the writer in us or what it is, but I'm one of those, if I hear words, I got to know what they mean. I'm talking about, I'm old school. My mom and dad had me with the whole Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yes,
when I was little. I'm talking
grew up
about,
on the same.
I'm sitting there reading words. I used to read it just to learn words, just so I can go say the word. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, yes, same
And
here.
so
I had a word of the day.
Yes.
Do the same thing with my sons. Word of the day.
Yes. Now, granted, it was sometimes in my life, it's a whole nother story, not even going to get into. And so I hear people say words. And so when I hear you say the words, I know you understand it. But so let's go back, and I want you to use this word so people can understand it. And then that's going to transition to the points of what I'm trying to get. Okay. So you use the word narcissistic. Mm-hmm. We both know what that means. But we hear it used so much in social media, the world today. And I'm sitting there like, I'm sitting there looking at some of the people using like, that's not narcissistic. And it's not. And then on the other hand, sometimes I'm looking like, but you're being the narcissistic person. It's not that person. So let's start with the breakdown of that. Because I think that's the problem where when you said the men, they're in the situation that they lost the seed to, or divorces and such things, but we don't use words right. And I think that's why things aren't quantified correctly. So let's start with that. Can you explain to everybody exactly what narcissistic is?
Narcissism is when the person is not just controlling, but they're controlling to the extent where they're almost non-emotional. They show little to no emotions. And if there are emotions, they're volatile. They're dangerous. Example, my ex-husband. He did not want me around my family or close friends. So if I did, and I went against what he said, there was a hit involved. Mm-hmm. Or there were privileges taken away. Mm-hmm. Or he would make me pay by going out to cheat. Mm-hmm. It was always an abuse. Then when our son was born, then it became worse. Okay, you don't want to do what I said do? All right, well, I'll take it out on the baby. If you ever leave me, you'll never see our son again. Mm-hmm. I wear a dent on this side of my eye where he pushed me into a ditch while snatching our son away from my arms because I wanted to leave. I wanted to take my child and walk away, and he didn't want to let me. They're volatile, they're dangerous, but you would never know because they don't look the part. They don't act the part. They don't sound the part. Till you actually, my dad describes it like a spider.
Okay.
They're spiders. And they weave this beautiful web. You ever walked into a spider web?
Yeah, many a
that
time.
you didn't see?
Yep.
Till you got right. That's what a narcissist, they have this web. And you don't see the web till you've walked into it. Now you're stuck in it. And it's hard. So hard to get out. People will sit back and tell you in a heartbeat, oh, I would have did this. No, you wouldn't have.
No.
I promise you, you wouldn't have. Oh, it's your fault that blah, blah, blah happened. Maybe it is my fault that it happened, that I was so weak at that moment, that I was so wrong for wanting to be loved, that I was so wrong for wanting to leave one relationship thinking that somebody was going to love me. I have mama trauma. Let me put it like that. So it started already there. And my trauma just kept having a different name. I had one narcissist in my life from 11, 12 years old. All I did as growing up and becoming I allowed the narcissist to have a different name. The narcissist went from a female to a male, and they just had a different name. And they had different forms, I would say forms of narcissism.
Yes, I was waiting because that's what I was going to get to, because I didn't want anybody to overlook what you were saying, because there are many forms of narcissism.
There are. Because
of the simple fact, I want everybody to think about the root of the narcissistic. Like you gave the which everything you said was correct, but the narcissistic way the mind is set up, it's all about me.
Yes.
It's me. It's what I want, what I need. And it can come off in different ways. It can come off, as you just said, in that physical abuse. I've seen some situations, men and women, where it was the mental abuse, the psychological games, where I've seen, like, you don't give me, if I'm not getting my way, I'm not giving you this, or I'm not doing this. So you end up doing that because you're seeking and that wanting that love and that feeling of that person that you're with. Because it's sort of like how you said with happiness. When I see people going out there trying to find love in the wrong places, like you're looking for that feeling when you don't already have that inside of yourself. So when I hear people online, like they say, it's all about me. It's all about me. And I'm like, okay, so a couple of videos back, you were talking about a narcissistic person, but now it's me. And I'm not saying that you're not supposed to have self-care.
I call it narcissistic tendencies.
Yes. And I think and don't get me wrong, I think at the core of it, we all have a little bit of it inside of us.
Yes, I agree.
It's about how you put it out to the world, like how you use it. Like, yes, I take my moments for self-care. I take my moments, I need to relax, rest, whatever that may be.
Yes.
But once you start using those behaviors to manipulate others for your beneficial gain, that's when you're starting to cross over into that negative side of things. And that's why I said that, because I wanted you to break that down, because when you started going into relationships, like when you said the man lost the seed, or why does certain men not speak up, or when you said the veteran issues, like it levels and varies across just different situations, depending on what the context is.
Yes.
And
it does.
And based on your life, because you kind of hit it to it, because of the things you're going through and went through, it led you to find an outlet. And you hinted it a little bit, but you said one of those outlets was, I had to write it down. And that writing down led you to writing multiple books.
Yes.
So before we get into writing, how you writing your books, what are those different outlets that you've used or seen used or helped others to use to help them with their outlets when they're seeking those things, like you said in the beginning, that they were trying to find themselves, find their purpose in life? What were those things that you would suggest or you use to utilize?
My first outlet was writing. I've been writing since I was a kid. My first poem was at 8. You remember the little poetry website, poetry.com?
Yes.
Where you could submit a poem,
Hey,
and then you could win, and you could put in this big old book. I actually won.
Oh, really?
And I published. Yes, I won $150 at 8 or 9 years old.
Wow.
I don't even remember the name of the poem, but it's actually published. It's in a book, and it's in Washington, D.C. right now.
Wow.
So that's where I started. I grew up reading books constantly. So those stories became a part of me. So I always wanted to write them. I have a vivid imagination. So if you say something to me, I see it in my head automatic. So I took that and I put it on paper. This is what I see. This is what I feel. I wrote one called The Architect. What is it? It's The Architect and the Author.
Architect, okay.
And it's as he writes my story, I think of my architect at the same time. And how my author is the person that she was supposed to be with physically, but mentally she was thinking about somebody else.
Oh, wow.
The architect, the one who made her who she is, because that was her first love.
Wow. Okay.
So the one who built her while another was writing her story. And it's crazy, it's deep. Like I might publish it one day, but that was what it was for me. Reading for me, seeing what other people think, seeing where their mindsets are. Food has always been an expression. It is another art for me. When I tell you, I always cook with my feelings.
Okay.
If I'm sad, you know I'm sad by the certain meal that I cook.
Explain that. Like,
you
give me
can
an
tell
example.
when I'm happy or I have joy because I cook a certain meal for that. When I'm in love, honey, you getting steak. You know, when I feel settled or calm, we have seafood. When I'm content, I do something like spaghetti because I want it to last for a little while.
Ooh, I'm glad you didn't say spaghetti was the sad meal because I was finna be sad.
No.
You know, we grew up on spaghetti. I've been like, we haven't had a bunch of sad meals.
No, the sad meal is soul food. A sad meal, you're going to have some greens and some cornbread. I'm going to make some fried chicken and some rice. And that's the sad meal.
So the person that's cooking is sad because when I eat that kind of stuff, I get happy.
That's the point. It's my sad meal. But it's to make somebody else happy. I cook what I feel, but it's to always give love to everybody else.
Now I'm finna have to start asking people around me when they cooking it. Is you sad?
Usually you can tell how people feel and how your food tastes.
I always took it as though when the food tastes bad, they didn't feel like cooking.
Most of the time, that's the truth. I wrote 2 cookbooks, trust me. Most people who cook like that, they really didn't feel like cooking. They cooked, but if it looks a certain way, you know what? How about we go to McDonald's today? They always happy. Because they always have to love it.
That's why they call it Happy Meals.
Okay. I know it'll never come out wrong unless somebody just didn't try at all.
Exactly. You got to not try at all.
Try at all. I also found it in talking, but not talking to everybody. Like my number one confidant is my dad. I'm a daddy's girl. 100%. So if there's an issue, the first person I go to after I go to God is my dad.
Okay. I understand
That's
that.
where I'm going. He's never steered me wrong. I am his female version.
Ooh,
He's brutally honest.
You got my mind going somewhere.
When I say this, I'm going to say why. Because there's a lot of qualities that he has that I have. That's why I say I'm his female version. He's brutally honest. I will step on toes in a heartbeat. I'm sorry, not sorry. Because I love people, I'm going to be honest with them. Don't lie to me, I won't lie to you. He can be the nicest, meanest person in the world. I can be the nicest, meanest person in the world. I love you with everything I have. When I give my love, I give it. No takebacks. If you abuse it, I promise you, you've lost one of the best loves you'll ever receive. And that's in friendship. That's in relationships. That's in family. You will never get it again. You'll never find it.
Wow.
He believes in God fully. He's why I have the relationship with God that I do. If God says to tell him something, to tell me something, he's going to tell me. Whether I like it or not.
Whether you like it or not.
If God tells me something to tell you, I'm going to tell you whether you like it or not. And if you got a problem with it, don't come at me, at God. That was my post the other day on Facebook. If you don't like what I have to say, don't at me, at God.
So you mentioned something, and I've heard you say it about yourself when it comes to your kids. Then you said it about just recently about your dad. And for one, you said with your kids, like that's the joy, that's the purpose. And it sounds like that's the same relationship with you and your dad. Because I look at my relationship with my parents. I got friends, their parents. I look at my relationship with my kids because let's be honest, it's times when they were growing up there, like I couldn't stand that. And it's like, I don't care if you can't stand me or not, because you don't even realize I'm your number one supporter. I say number one, and you hear mom say, well, I'm number one. I'm like, well, I don't know about you. Me and my wife are married. We're one to begin with. So we're both number one. But that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story. Well, no, it might be. No, let's dive into that story. Let's go tie it all together. So that's that unconditional. Like my kids don't have to do anything. I don't expect nothing from them. I love them because I love them. I want them to have the best, not even the best. I want them to be better than me because I got 3 boys. That's why I said
yes. How many boys?
3.
I have 3 boys. Well, technically 4. One's in heaven. So I have 3 living, 1 in heaven.
So I knew that because of your posts. Sorry to hear that. Wow. That's that again, that unconditional, because most people, I don't want to say talk over it or talk around it.
They do. They avoid it.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, they do. It's hard to talk about for some because the healing is not there.
Why do you think that is?
For me, personally, it took me 14 years to heal from that.
There's
what
no
I
time
went
limit
through
on
in
it.
the military that led up to what happened with my son, I held a lot of anger. I was angry at God. I was angry at my now very soon to be ex-husband. I was angry at his family. I was angry at my family. I was angry at myself because I thought it was my fault. So for most people, when they lose a child, it's a hole that's there.
That never gets filled. I get it.
It never, and you don't ever, and that's the problem too. because they try to fill it.
You can't. I
You
don't see
don't
how.
feel that hole. You just let it heal. Like when you have a surgery, they let it heal from the inside out.
Yep.
Well, sometimes the outside can be healed. But unless you've healed the inside of it, it's always going to hurt. So you don't ever want to deal with it. Until you face it and you deal with it. I was just teaching children's church on Sunday.
Okay.
And our lesson was on fear. Hurt, pain, fear, loss, bad relate. Unless you face these things, you will never heal from them. As long as you continue to pick at it. You ever seen a little kid pick at a scab constantly? Yep. It never heals. If you don't let it heal, it will always, always, always be that sore spot for you. On November 26th of last year, God healed my heart.
Wow.
Because I said, God, I'm tired of blaming myself. I'm tired of being angry at other people who don't even care that I'm angry with them.
That's normally how it works.
I'm tired of dealing with this person who's blaming me for something that's partially his fault too.
Wow.
I'm telling you, I got to get the book to see why it's partially his fault.
Hold on, which book you talking about?
My Forever Angel.
So let's go into that. You say
I'm doing the plug.
that's the new book. So
that's the new book.
So because I know people have to read it, but give us a little bit of, I don't know, background insight. What should we be expecting from this new book?
First off, expect to need tissue.
Okay.
I've gotten already a review on it. And she even said, bring tissue. It was a lot of tissue going into writing this book. Because this book is not just the story of my son, but it's the raw story of my choices.
Okay.
It's the raw story of my decisions and having to live with them. It's the story of how this country treats its own.
Oh, yeah.
You know, not just as far as color goes.
Oh, I get it.
As somebody who's serving this country. You know, how the medical system works. This is a story of life that you don't hear. That most people won't tell you.
Yep.
Because it's too painful or they're afraid of the repercussions. Come for me, please. By all means. I don't even care. There's no fear here.
So hold on, because you said that. You said how as a whole. What are those things that you see? That you witness that are not just hurting us as a whole?
How do I put it?
Without trying to tell the book, just whether it be, say it again.
Marriage.
Okay.
That's one of the things in the story. How things affect marriage. We really don't discuss out loud. You see out loud on social media, oh, they're holding hands and you know they love each other so much. And she can't stand him. He gets on her last nerve, and I don't mean in a good way. They sleep in separate beds when they in the house, but when they take a video for the social media, they're laying on the same bed together.
Yep.
That's well made up. It's the aesthetic.
Why do
No,
you
here's
think
the
that is?
nitty gritty of a relationship where people are not faithful.
Okay, talking about cheating, right? Okay.
Where the other person is not faithful, where they bring things into the relationship that shouldn't be there. They're bringing people and spirits
Yep.
that shouldn't be there. Dealing with a child who has to go through that. They have to watch their little brother suffer. And explaining to a 6-year-old that these are the intricacies of life. You live and you die. But also getting through the thoughts of suicide that comes after a devastating loss and loss of yourself. I've tried to commit suicide 3 times in life. The first one was while I was with my ex-husband. The other 2 times was after I lost my son. Sometimes you get to a point where you don't want to go on, where it just seems like it hurts too much. You don't want to try anymore. It feels like it's easier to give up than try. And I've been there. And I know what that feels like. And I know what it feels like to have that voice in your ear. Just let it go. Just give up. People don't love you. God doesn't love you. Nobody needs you. Everybody will be all right without you. What happened was your fault. You know, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. You didn't fight hard enough. Just give up. But to have the resiliency to say, I won't. God saved my life. This book is an explanation of the last big thing that I went through to get here. That took 14 years of culmination. It took 14 years to write this book. And I wrote it in 2 months. But I had to separate before I could do that. I could not have this person in my life anymore before I wrote this book. Because if I had left them there, there's no way I could have released. There's no way I could have let go. Because I would have still been taking the blame. This book is an eye-opener and a conversation starter to say we need to really look at these people, these men, these women, these mothers, these fathers, these daughters, and these sons, these brothers and sisters, these people in life who feel invisible. There are so many people who feel unseen. But I'm here. I see you. You're visible to me. Every time I walk past somebody and their spirit cries out to me, I want to hug them so bad. Because I know what that feels like to be in a room full of people and nobody sees you. Everybody's laughing and talking and you hurt so bad. You don't even want to be there and you don't have a choice. You have to be there because that's your job. to have your job tell you get over it.
Yeah.
You have to go on. You don't even have time to grieve completely. Get over it. You got a job to do. To not be able to be near the people that you need and not have the people there who understand. Because when this happened, they didn't have the social media groups that they have now.
No.
This was back in 2009. So I didn't have Facebook like that. I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have Twitter. We were still coming out of the age of MySpace.
Yeah, I was just getting built. You're right.
So we didn't have that. The government solution was, oh yeah, go to group therapy. Why do I want to be around other people right? I don't want to be around other people right now. I don't even want to be around y'all. I gag every day I'm around you. Like, ugh. And to even have to deal with a resentment. I'm going to tell you a little piece that's in the book real quick.
Okay.
So after I lost my son, I had to go back to work 2 weeks after his funeral.
Oh, wow.
And my chief there, we're outside, you know, we're doing our morning duty, doing a roll call, things like that, telling us the plans for the day. And she announces that she's pregnant.
In front of everybody.
And looks right at me. And everything inside of me wanted to just jump on her and let out everything out. You know what I'm going through, and you do that? Almost vindictively. I know you don't control the fact that you're pregnant, but to say it, you could have excused me or something. But then you want me to open up to you? You're mad that I'm at work, mad that I'm out here smoking 15 cigarettes to get through the day? I couldn't fathom it. I could not imagine treating somebody like that. Those moments, I felt invisible. If I felt invisible, and how many more people are invisible? How many more people are God trying to show to us? How many times has the Holy Spirit said, go speak to that person, and we don't do it? That God has a word for them, or that person just needs a hug, but because I've got something to do. Or they're just not as important as I am. That narcissistic tendency.
So I have a question on that then. Because I agree with you. And I know those moments. Well, let's back up. For one, your chief, I won't even reserve what I was thinking, but that would because I'm big on this. Like we're real quick in our society. When we have a kid, you get all this certain time off, military, maternity leave, however you want to call it. Get so much time off, but we never really, because I dealt with suicidal situations, I dealt with losses of others during my time in military, but we never got that set block of, and there's no again, there's no healing time. Yes. But at the same time, it's no different than having a kid. Most mothers and fathers, they don't want their kid going to daycare after 6 weeks. Some of them want to keep you, but they set a time of 6 weeks, bring on back to work. If you want to take leave or more, you can do it, and they extended it and all that over the year.
Now you got to take your own leave.
Yes. But when something tragic like that happens, we need you to come right on back. And let's be logical. Most funerals, it take 1 week just to do the funeral. And if you say you went back after 2 weeks, that's 1 week just to grieve. Like,
and I wasn't supposed to get the 2 weeks, and the 2 weeks was still partially leave.
Exactly. And so I know there's no set time limit of like, oh, yep, it's day 99. I'm over it. I know it's no set time, but you would think as a whole, as a country, would be like, hey, we're going to block out this much time. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm going to give you whatever it is for maternity. It should be for on the other end. Just make it even.
Absolutely. I agree.
That's just my thought process. But hey, I don't run nothing around the world.
I concur. I completely concur.
But then that leads to that next thing of like when you're dealing with, how do you want to say it? Like people in situations, like you said with your chief. How do you think it goes about? Because we talked about it in a minute. You mentioned it in your book, and you said the narcissistic piece. When you see somebody that, yes, you want to hug them, you want to go up and say something to them. And remember, I said it in the beginning. I think we all have that little bit of narcissistic in us. If I see something going on nowadays, and I know, like, hey, I might need to say something. Now, should I say something? Let's step in to help. But it's certain factors about me now. It might be the military. I don't know. Of my keen sense of watching stuff. But the little narcissist in me, the one that I do have, like, I want to, but with the climate of the world today, I still need to get home to my family. Because I've seen those situations where people stepped in and helped or offered to help or tried to do their best, whether it be you need a couple of dollars and they're trying to help somebody out. And next thing you know, they're robbed and getting killed. Yeah. Somebody's getting physically abused. You go to help and it was in the news. A man was trying to help and the other man killed him and a woman still left with the abuser. Like, yeah, you see so much going on in the world and you're like, yes, I know that. But when should that person let the little bit of narcissistic in them say, you know what? I'm just going to step back. I have to reserve this to not just protect myself, but I got things to do for my family. I got to be here for this person. Like, what is that boundary?
Like I said before, that voice. Some people say it's just a little still voice. For me, it's the Holy Spirit. It's discernment. The Holy Spirit will never put you in a situation that'll be dangerous, ever. Some people are just going to run into situations no matter what. I used to be that person. I'd run into a burning building because that's just who I was. I will still run into burning buildings. But now some people just gonna have to burn.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I can't run into burning buildings for everyone because not everyone deserves for me to run into that burning building for them. But for those who need comfort and help, sometimes giving comfort and help isn't you necessarily being the one to do it. Mm-hmm. Like for the ones who want to break up somebody being abused, depending upon the situation, I might not jump in. But I might call the police. I've done it. I've heard somebody being abused and I called the police. They were steady. I could hear them outside the door. Who called the police? And blah, 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 and da, da, da. Well, baby, I just saved your life. And guess what? She ended up going to jail too. Well, I just saved her life some more. You might have had to go to jail, but guess what? By the time you get out, you might have your head together. Now you spent some time away from him. Sometimes it might take, well, guess what? The only way to break this up, I might have to pick up something and just beat somebody down with it. You run and I got you. Sometimes it's not narcissistic as much as it is self-preservation.
That's what I was just about to say.
But sometimes we allow self-preservation to supersede what God is saying to us. Sometimes God will tell me to speak to somebody. And I gotta, do I really need to? Like, I'm minding my business. No, speak. I speak. Now I've got a connection. Now I've been able to invite that person to church. Now that person is going to church on that. They might not be going to my church, but now they're going to church. I might not speak to that person ever again. But
But I
that
don't,
door just opened for God to come in.
but I don't want anybody to miss what you just said about that self-preservation, because it all wraps back into what we've been talking about tonight, where it started with. That same self-preservation, that's what keeps certain people, and in some instances, probably yourself, in those relationships with that narcissistic, that abusive person, because the self-preservation thinks, I can't live without this person. How am I going to make it if this person isn't by my side? How am I going to get through life if I leave the mother or the father of my kids? How are my kids? Because that unconditional
What's
love
going
we
to
talk
happen to
about
my
for our
children?
kids.
Yes.
I can't leave them because my kids, that self-preservation. I want everybody, but see, I'm not going to go into the nuggets. The way you get the nuggets is when you go order the book that Candy Jones has just
I
read.
got one for that one too.
You got, hold on. So before you even go into that, first of all, because we know you're 07, I don't want to miss this opportunity. How can people even go look or find your books? Where can they go? Or just to get in contact with you, period.
www.candysthoughts.com. That's www.candysthoughts.com. My email is up there. My number is up there. You can get in contact with me at any time. So I'm always available. Disabled vet has its perks. So I'm always available for anything, anytime.
Hey,
I'm always available to be there. That was one request I had of God when I got out the military, was that I wanted to be available at all times, especially for my children. The way it happened wasn't the way I expected it to be answered, but I got what I asked for. So, look, my God shall supply all my needs. That was a need. He supplied it. We don't always get things the way we want them to be. Sometimes God gives it to us in another way that's for his glory.
Yep.
Not ours. And I think we forget that sometimes, that it's not for our glory, but it's for his. And we have to be in the position to be open for what I've been through was for his glory. It did not feel like it was for God's glory at all. But sitting here now, a year ago, never would have thought this. Never. I never would have thought I would have had this amount of freedom and this amount of joy and this amount of peace and this amount of love and building patience and building kindness and building long suffering, because I got some fruits of the spirit I still need to cultivate.
We all do.
And I still have some weeds, fleshly weeds that have to be pulled.
We all do.
But my garden doesn't look like what it used to. When you were talking about the self-preservation, I wrote a book. It originally was called Bondage, but I changed the name to I'm Still Standing Here. And it's about a girl named Sharice. And Sharice makes some choices and decisions that land her with the narcissist. And it goes into her story with the narcissist and how he treats her and the things that he does to her. But how at the end of the day, she gets out. But the journey that she had to take to get there, she almost died several times. She had a gun put to her head. When I tell you, that was the purpose of that book. And it was another release for me and another form of healing. I'm gonna drop something for people that they don't think about, for those who get out of narcissistic relationships. The hardest part is not the leaving as much as it is what happens after you leave. One of the biggest things that happens when you leave a narcissistic relationship is your mental health. The worst part are dreams. To this day, sometimes I still have dreams. I still have nightmares. I still have memories that come back up. And those things can haunt you for a lifetime. And they don't just hurt you mentally. They can hurt you emotionally because now you don't trust the next person.
Mm-hmm.
They hurt you physically because you're either not going to eat or you're going to eat too much. You're going to find comfort in it, or you're not going to want to eat. Spiritually, the amount of brokenness of your spirit. And I'm not just talking ego, I'm talking about your soul feeling broken. Well, my self-esteem is high because that's what I think. No, a narcissist breaks that. That's the first thing they go after is your self-esteem. Because that's how they control you. I had my ex-husband. He was in prison at the time. Yes, the dude went to prison. Send me a message. And he said, no one will ever love you like I did. I don't want anybody to love me like you did because you cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I don't want that kind of love. Ain't no snickerdoodle, Snickers, ain't none of that in that kind of love.
I don't want it.
I don't want that.
Oh,
I don't need that in my life. That's not safe. That's not healthy. That's not kosher. That's not any of that. You keep that over there. This last one, I don't want that love either.
Keep it over there.
That. I pray. I said, Lord, first let me be healed before I go into anything else. But don't ever let me lose that ability to love.
Agreed.
Because the easiest thing to do when you come out of those type of relationships is lose the ability to really love again. Because you'll hold back a part of yourself. And that can be the best part of you. But you're holding it back because you're so, and God, keep me from being afraid. Help me to not fear love. Because I'm asking for something that's strong. And I'm not talking narcissistic strong love. I'm talking about a love that's so strong and so fierce that all I can do is
Did I lose you, Candy? She was just kidding. Okay, I got you.
I'm back. I'm sorry. To be loved the same way I love. I had somebody tell me that too, because the person asked me, how do I define true love? So I gave my definition, which is to be able to love that person more than you do yourself.
Okay.
To be willing to come to an agreement, to give of yourself equally, to be on the same level with each other. And I gave some other definitions, trying to be roundabout because It's a general conversation.
Yep.
So I asked the person, well, what is true love to you? They said the way that God loves us is a way a man should love a woman. I told them, whoever loves you, they're going to be love. Because that's the love I'm waiting for. That's what I want a man to tell me, that I'm going to love you like God loves me. I don't know what that feels like. A lot of people don't know what that feels like. To be truly, I saw a lady yesterday in PetSmart, and she was so excited to tell me to. Her and her husband have been married for 40 years.
Oh, wow. That's a blessing.
And she told me how they met. And I'm seeing the smile on her face. And I said, God, I want love. I want that love. Where it's not, I'm putting up a facade on what the relationship is. Because I hid that. I hid for the longest time how bad my relationship was. Both of them. All of them. Honestly. I hid how bad all of my relationships were. I put on a facade. I had imposter syndrome. If you looked at me and you hurt, yes, everything is good, but I hurt inside. I felt like less. I felt like nothing. I felt like I wasn't a good mom. I felt like I wasn't a good wife. I felt like I just wasn't good enough. But when I came out of this, I realized I've been more than good enough. It's just their definition of love wasn't the same as what my definition of love is. They were telling me they loved me, but the way that they loved me is not the right way to love somebody. Because they didn't know how to love.
I think
so
that's
for them, love is control.
I think that's a lot of people's problems.
For them, love means you have to do what I said, do my way or the highway. For them, love is I do what I want to do, how I do it, and you're going to stay right here and be okay with that. For them, love was I'll bring whatever I want to home. Read the book, both of them. Some things got brought home that shouldn't have came home. That was their definition of love. But that's how I needed to be loved. And that's not how I wanted my children to see love. We forget that we're their biggest example. We give them love, but they see how we love others. And if they don't see us properly loving others, they don't know how to go to school and love other kids. They don't know how to go to church and get along with because they don't see that love. They don't see that relationship. So I want my babies to always see that kind of love. So if that means I have to be by myself for a little bit, then that means I got to be by myself for a little bit. It is what it is.
Got to do what's best for the babies.
But that too, get out of that relationship, ladies. Get out of that relationship, fellas. Especially when you have children. There are too many. My God, my heart cries every time I see it on TV. These men going through and killing their wife or their girlfriend and their whole family out of jealousy and manipulation and their narcissism and their anger. Honey, don't just walk away, move away.
Agreed.
Run.
Agreed.
Seriously, run. I created a group on Facebook. It never really took off like I thought it would, but it's still there for those who want to leave those type of relationships and for other people to connect and provide money and resources and shelter. So as a woman or a man leaves that type of relationship, they can safely leave and move to another place. If that means they need help going to stay with family, then they have help going to stay with family. If they need to stay with somebody that the person that they were with doesn't know, that would be available too. And I'm going to try to get that back off the ground again.
You need to. You need
because
to do that.
That safety net is needed to be able to get away. That going into the Navy was my getting away. That's how I got out. I go home, I see my family. I promised my dad I would never move back. And by the grace of God, I have not. And I will not. If you have the chance to run, and these churches, please provide the same thing. Provide that. If you have young men and young women coming to your church, I don't care what their lifestyle choice, that none of that matters. Their safety is imperative. Help them. Help them get into a shelter. Help them have somewhere to stay. Help them get back to their family. Create a circle that does that. Because I'm going to tell you, from the little bitty town that I'm from, everybody knew what was happening. But I didn't see the people who went off or snapped off or said, hey, you know you're wrong for what you're doing, but you want to run back and tell me. Or then don't run back and tell me at all. I find out some other way. Or I overhear somebody else talking.
So for not just you, but for somebody, let's say the beginning when it first started, and somebody now that might have been going through it for years, outside of the books. And I do this to everybody. I normally ask for like a nugget of, as we wrap up, like that nugget of what somebody, how would you help them? But this one, I want you to ask for like somebody that went through it and it's at the beginning of these stages and they think they see these red flags or signs, and somebody that's been going through it for some years, some similar stuff that you've been through. What would be that piece of information? Because ain't nobody else telling the name, but you, as you said, nobody's helping you. What would be that information or that nugget you would give them to help them not just see their way through or look to God or whatever that information may be, to help them get on the other side of that so they can start the healing process?
My biggest thing would be figure out who you are. Because until you're ready to heal, or even better, let me say it like this. You'll never get to healing if you don't know who you are.
Okay.
You can see all the red flags in the, but unless you're ready, the only person who can help you is you. You have to want this. I can be here for you every day. I can put up a policy that will say, I'm here for you. I've got your back. When I walked away, I had to be ready. I had to be ready. When I saw the red flags, I had to be ready to say, I can't do this anymore. So until you're ready, no one else can. God can't even do for you until you're ready to let it happen.
Wow.
So when you're ready, I'm ready. And God will send other people who are ready too. And you'd be surprised the number of people who've been. My next door neighbor saw what was going on, and she was like, when is she going to stop letting this happen? When she and I had a conversation, she was like, yeah, I saw it, but I couldn't say anything. But I see your progress. I see where you are. I saw you finally got ready and you finally said, I can't do this anymore. Now,
Wow.
when you're ready to say, I'm done, then we can begin the process of letting some things go, letting some people go, walking away from those situations safely, involving necessary people, because sometimes it's not always going to be involving the police safely. Sometimes it's going to take waiting till that person goes to work and then you got to leave. I wrote a blog on it. I have a blog on my page, something from my imagination. And it's about a chick who was in an abusive relationship and how she waited. But she had people in her corner too, who helped her get her stuff together and save money and bought her a secret car and stuff like that. And when the day came, her father knew a police officer who could work off duty to help her.
Wow.
And her husband shows up and, she's ready to go, things like that. He shows up. He sees that she's trying to run away. But she was smart. She set up a secret camera in the house. And instead of, no, look, I'm doing something. Sorry, son.
No, you're fine.
She went through, she got ready to leave, and he shows up. And what she did was she set up a camera. And instead of fighting him when he would try to abuse her, she would let it go to a certain extent before she defended herself. And she had it on camera. So every time he put his hands on her, every time he would push her, every time he would yell at her, it was there. And she would download it every day when he go to work. And she'd save it on her phone. She'd save it in the cloud. And then she sent a copy to her family. So when she finally got ready to leave, and he found her at her dad's house trying to get in the car and drive off, he tried to attack her. And the police officer grabbed him. And get your hands off me. I know everybody in the city and blah, blah, blah. And he pulled out the disc. And he said, you're going to prison for the rest of your life. And he arrests him. And she drives off. And as she's looking in the rearview mirror, she realizes that she might never see these people again. because she has to start over for her own safety. Because like I just said, he knew everybody in the city. So there is no way she would have been able to come back safely.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
But you have to do what you, sometimes that means leaving behind the people that you love and care about. I told a young lady this earlier today, take a step out on faith. One little step can save your life. Literally. If what's going on in the world today doesn't tell you that, I don't know what else will. One little step can be your road to healing. My slogan for my website is Journey to Healing, from storm to calm.
So one little step.
One little step.
So I can't even touch that because you basically summed up everything that we talked about tonight right then by just saying you have to be ready and just taking that one little step. Man, I couldn't have said it any better. That was amazing. Oh, I don't want anybody to think I forgot. I will be putting all of Candy's information in the description box. But man, I must say, Candy, like, I'm going to have to bring you back on, especially when it's time to write that next book, because I'm not done asking questions and picking your brain. But I know for the sake of time, I know your family. Tell them we appreciate you for letting you even sneak away for this long to talk to us. On behalf of everybody, I got to say thank you. Thank you. You gave us some knowledge, gave us some talking points, some thinking points, some moving forward steps. And we really appreciate that. So on behalf of everybody, I got to say thank you. Because
it's not me, it's God.
And we love that God is
it's
using
none
you.
of me. It's all him.
We love that he is using you. Now don't go nowhere just right yet. I want to talk to you right after the show. But again, I want to say thank you because God is using you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Oh, and we will definitely be bringing you back. But until the next time, Candy, we will see you on the other side.
I'm back.
Every time I walk out that door, every time I interact with anybody new, my purpose is to help change.
It's time to celebrate life. If you know that you're in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know you want better for your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you have what it takes to be in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you are not just trying to be good for you, but for those around you, it's time to stand up. As a matter of fact, look to the person to your left and tell them you are enough.
I want to help you change, and just like you change, every time I interact with somebody, they help me change. It's no different than if I met an individual and they had 4 quarters and they needed change, or if I had $1 and they had 4 quarters, I need to change. We can swap the money. The value is still the same. They still got $1, I still got $1, but we both exchanged something, and it was a change for both of us. So every time I walk out that door, I inspire to help change lives just as much as lives have changed me.
Y'all been listening to the wrong people, watching the wrong things all your life, and it's time to put to rest all those negative thoughts, because you are enough. It's time to put to rest that self-doubt, because you are enough. It is time to get rid of that negative energy, because you are enough. It is time to stop listening to people that don't have the best interests of you in your life, because you are enough. So let's have a moment of silence. I want everybody to understand that you are the person that's in charge of your life. Everything that you have inside of you to be who you're supposed to be in life. You have a destiny, and that destiny can only be accomplished through you, by you, and only you, with the help of God. When you realize that you are the person you are, because you're not a carbon copy, there's only one you. They try to put you in a box. Society tries to put you in a box, but you can't be in a box. How can you be in a box when there's only one you? But then they tell you, think outside the box. What I'm trying to get you to understand is there is no box.
I want to pass on the things that I have to the generations behind me. By the time it's time for me to get called home and go to the grave, I want to be empty. I believe in bankrupting the cemetery, so I can't take this knowledge with me because the cemetery is already full of brilliant ideas and unwritten books and innovative ideas. I can't take this with me, so I'm trying to leave it all here as Billy Graham Jr. to the next generation so somebody else can carry it on.